What's up, gamers? It's Above, back with another video, this time with the Fallen Saber GM guide. For our newer Destiny players, this is a reprise strike from D1 that is returned as a Grandmaster Nightfall in Destiny 2. Though this GM can be a little hectic at times, the strats you'll find in this guide helped us get consistent 15 to 17 minute runs. This week's Adept loot is the Adept Swarm, as well as any mods you've yet to pick up. Let's get into it. Starting with our team comp, we ran one Revenant Hunter running Aeon Swifts, one Shadebinder Warlock running Eye of Another World, and one Well of Radiance Warlock running Phoenix Protocol. The Shadebinder Stasis turret combined with the Revenant's Silence and Squall dominates the hectic close quarter encounters throughout this Nightfall. Well of Radiance is primarily used to speed up ad clear and keep you safe during DPS in the boss room. Two Banner Shields and a Revenant Hunter also works well if you'd like to play a little safer, but I cannot recommend Stasis enough. As for weapon loadouts, we ran 3 Anarchies, 3 Overload Bows, and 3 Kinetic Anti-Barrier Snipers. There aren't too many shields in this GM, but you will need to have Arc for the Captains and Void for the Servitors. I highly recommend using Point of the Stag, as it covers Arc Shield and has Vorpal, which helps keep Overload suppressed due to its increased damage against champions. I also recommend using the Imperial Needle, which is a Void Bow from the Season of the Chosen Recasters loot pool. Feel free to use any Kinetic Sniper of your choosing. If you don't have Anarchy, Risk Runner builds and Izanagi Div are also solid options. The only thing to look out for with Div is the ammo economy in the boss room. As for armor mods, I ran Taking Charge with Protective Light for increased damage resistance, as well as Supercharged and Charged Up to get me to ×5 charge with Light. I supplied our team with ammo by running Sect of Insight on my Aeon Gauntlets and using Special Finisher as well. That way, each time I finished a champion, I generated heavy and special ammo for my fire team. I ran Reactive Pulse to give me a powerful overshield that kept me safe while getting finishers. This week's negative modifier, Saber Protocol, increases incoming solar and environmental damage. Even though the boss deals solar damage, I used Arc Resist as there is a ton of arc throughout this Nightfall, and Concussive Dampener helps prevent getting one-shot by the skiffs. As for artifact mods, we used Anti-Barrier Sniper, Overload Bow, and Resonance Siphon, which refunds 1/3 of your stasis abilities every time you stun a champion. Now think about that. This mod is insanely strong because Overload champions typically take several stuns, essentially giving you all of your ability energy back for free, and stasis is incredibly strong in this Nightfall, which means you'll have your abilities up at all times. Jumping right into the Nightfall, we start things off with the infamous Warsat encounter. Be careful as you approach because the crash can murder you from ridiculous ranges. Start by scanning your ghost and standing in the circle to capture the zone. Once you see the first skiff approaching on the horizon, get the hell out of there, back up to the cliffside across from the dropship, and start shooting the skiff to open up its turrets. Team shot these with snipers and it will break them almost instantly, which allows you to push back up to the Warsat and clear ads without the risk of instantly dying to the skiffs. These are insanely scary with the turrets on, so definitely prioritize those first. Waves of ads will continue to spawn as you progress the Warsat. The Shadebinder Stasis Turret and Anarchy are amazing tools for spawn trapping ads out of the dropships. The only enemies you really need to be wary of are the Invisible Marauders, as they're fast, sneaky, and melt you if they get too close. Once the Warsat reaches 35%, an Overload champion and other ads will spawn in out of the dropship. Make sure you hop off the cap point, because if you continue to progress it, you'll actually spawn in 2 skiffs at 38%, which means you'll be fighting an Overload champion and 2 new waves of ads all at the same time. So step off, deal with the Overload captain, and then finish him for ammo if you need it. Once you're done, get back on the Warsat and shoot the skiffs as they fly in to open up their turrets and take them out just as you did before. This will make the next wave of ads much easier to deal with. We like to play near the edge of the cliff to keep safe distance from the rushing ads. Snipers like to push up to the rock face on your close right, so I recommend throwing the stasis turret up there to keep them suppressed. Feel free to pop a Well and Revenant Super to clear ads and the anti-barrier champion that spawns in from the dropship. Once dead, hop back on the Warsat until the counter reaches 75%. It's at this point that a 4th and final skiff will spawn in near the ocean behind you. Take out the skiff turrets once again, clear the final wave of ads and the Overload champion, and once the counter reaches 100%, the rest of the ads will despawn and you're free to move forward. The next encounter gives teams a lot of trouble as it's pretty chaotic, but let me tell you, stasis makes this a breeze. I recommend popping a Well behind the box on the left, as well as one of your stasis supers right away to focus on ad clear. Invisible Marauders will rush you from your left-hand side, so I like to plant Anarchy Mines to spawn trap them just in case the super doesn't take them out. Once the first super is over, pop the second to kill the remaining ads. All that's left is a barrier champion and an Overload captain at the back of the room. I recommend killing the barrier first, as he can make the overload immune. Once he dies, a second overload champion will spawn up alongside 4 sniper shanks, restun both champs, then focus on the snipers. Now that all of the threats are dead, you can focus on the overload champions and getting finishers to restock on ammo. Once the room is clear, activate the security protocol, then make your way to the back of the room. A couple sniper shots will break the fuse, at which point you can sprint through the hallway behind you and spawn camp the 2 overload champions that spawn in. You'll need to be quick about getting through the hallway to your teammates though. Once the overloads are dead, I recommend throwing your stasis turret through the door to slow the oncoming marauders, then use your shurikens, anarchy, and dustfield grenade to clear out the rest of the room. Once everything is dead, you can move forward by dropping down through the trap door on your right. The arc streams encounter is a little tricky, as the increased environmental damage means the electricity will one-shot you. We like to send one person to pick up the orb and start moving towards the dunk location, while the other 2 clear from the back of the hallway. When you do this, several normal and exploder shanks will spawn up. The stasis turret helps with this portion of the Nightfall a ton, as it slows and freezes the adds to prevent them from detonating as you run past. While the carrier focuses on avoiding the electricity and the splody boys, your teammates will remain near the dunk location where you came in and clear the normal shanks for you. We found this to be a pretty consistent way to clear the encounter. The next room is very tightly compact and has a lot of adds, so I recommend clearing adds from the doorway, then popping a well behind the pillar on the right. Pop your shade binder as well to push forward and start freezing the overload champion at the back of the room, as well as clearing the adds. Once the overload champion dies, a barrier champion will spawn in, and once the barrier dies, 2 more overloads will spawn. Your stasis supers are extremely powerful here for simply stun locking these adds at the top of the ramp, so get finishers if you need them, and then we're moving on to the next encounter. The next room is loaded with champions, which is why I start by clearing adds from the doorway that you enter through, then push up and pop a well on the pillar to the left. This will give you a nice little head glitch on the barrier champion in front of you, as well as sight lines on the overload champions at the back left. Focus on the barrier first, then move on to the overload champion. I recommend that you have one person keeping the overload stunned while you work on the barrier. Once the barrier is dead, 2 more overloads will spawn up. And since all 3 of you have bows on, it actually makes it pretty easy to keep them all stun locked in front of the doorway. Clear them out, give finishers if you need to restock on ammo, and we're heading to the boss room. The boss room is actually pretty straightforward. Start by clearing out the shanks and void servitors, and once they're dead, the boss fight begins. Pop your well near the left stairs and immediately apply anarchy to the boss. This paired with your sniper health gates him very quickly. As you're damaging, keep your head on a swivel and clear shanks around the room as they spawn in. This will also help refund super energy to your well warlock. Once health gated, more adds will spawn in alongside a barrier champion. Clear the room, and once the champion is dead, pop a rift down and begin damaging the boss once again. You're literally rinsing and repeating the process for the first health gate. Once the second barrier dies, the boss will spawn up once again alongside 2 sniper shanks to your top right and left. The damage gates are now over, so take out the snipers, melt the boss, and Fallen Saber is a GG. If you found this guide useful, a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. I also stream GM help several days a week at twitch.tv/above, so if you don't have a fire team or simply want some help completing this Grandmaster, swing on by and say hello. That's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace!